It's Matt from Trail Rider Camp, and I'm coming to you from my car outside of a soccer complex here in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm ready to kick off basically the beginning of my summer 2025 bike trip, a 5-day, 4-nighter where I hit up a bunch of trails in south central Pennsylvania. So the whole kind of Harrisburg, York, Lebanon, Hershey, that kind of general vicinity. The backstory, behind this trip was that for the second year in a row, I wanted to do a more traditional kind of bike tour trip, a number of days, one route, living out of my bags. And I was going to do it with a buddy of mine, and for the second year in a row, he was a no-go. So I was kind of forced to audible on the fly. I also had asked my wife, for a little bit of input on dates. And it turned out that as a teacher, that my school calendar did not totally align with my kids' school calendar. So basically, I finished up on a Friday, my kids finish up on the following Friday. So that kind of afforded me a little, week window there where my wife was like, hey, if you're doing this trip, that would be ideal. So here I am, first week of June. And, given the fact that it's early June, the temperature here in Pennsylvania can be highly, highly variable. And because of that, I was like, well, do I do a traditional tour where I'm living out of the bags? Or do I want to be able to carry a little bit more in the way of equipment and, blankets and, if it's really cold nights, do I want to have that flexibility? And so I opted to instead just, do a bunch of different rail trails that I've always read a lot about. I've never had a chance to do because of the distance from home. And I figure, okay, I'll couple this with a bunch of camping. I'll couple this with a bunch of sightseeing of state parks, which I love to visit. So again, this trip altogether, 5 days, 4 nights. I'm going to do roughly 250 miles, so about an average of 50 miles a day. I'm going to do 8 different trails over the course of those 5 days. I'm going to visit 5 different state parks. I'm going to camp in 3 different state parks. So my hope here is that I'm going to set up these videos not kind of individual trail by individual trail, but rather I'm going to do like one video per day, kind of telling the story of that day of the trip. So I'm here, I'm going to watch my son play soccer. I'm hoping to be out of here by about 11 a.m. I'm going to jump right on the turnpike, which is a stone's throw away from the field here. And then I'm going to drive about 40 minutes to the new Stanton exit and go to Youngwood, Pennsylvania, where there's a trail called the 5-Star Trail. It's close to Pittsburgh. I've never done it. Kamut says that when I, factor in all the different spurs that kind of go off of the main trail, that it's about 15.5 miles. So I'm going to do that for a little bit more than an hour, fill up with gas, drive another 2 hours to Newville, Pennsylvania, which is kind of near Carlisle. And I'm going to do about 25 point something miles on the Cumberland Rail Trail. So that'll put me close to around 41 for the day. And then I'm going to get back in the car, drive another 40 minutes or so to Gifford, Pinchot State Park. I might be saying that completely wrong. And I'm camping there overnight. So kind of 3 big stops today, about 41 miles. Plus the distance of travel. So this should be the easiest day, but this might also be kind of tough because it's a little bit of a rush day. I'm trying to make sure that I get to the campground before it gets dark. So that's the agenda. Good to have goals. Let's see how this works out. Well, we had a slight change in plans. So my son's soccer game went in extra time and then to a shootout, and then they had like an awards thing. So needless to say, by the time I got on the road, it was an hour and a half after I had originally planned to get on the road. And kind of looking at what was already a pretty crunch schedule for the day, I decided to just axe doing the 5-Star Trail and to just head here to Newville Borough to start the Cumberland Valley Trail. Now, the Cumberland Valley Trail, if you look at it on Trail Link, it's one of these trails that's kind of a work in progress. There's kind of one main part of it, and then there's a few kind of disconnected segments here and there. So what I'm going to do is I've parked here in Newville, really easy to get to, about 15 minutes south of the turnpike. I'm going to kind of ride down to the one end where it hits a dead end. I'm going to then turn around, drive back past the car, go all the way down to Shippensburg, turn around at that far end, and then head on back. It's a real nice trailhead setup. Probably enough for 20 cars to get in there, though it was pretty full. It's a Sunday afternoon. Nice paved trail. Nice covered bathroom facilities there. Really impressed with kind of the initial look. So you only head north from Newville what appears to be like a little over 2 miles. And the surface changes to this very wide kind of crushed gravel stuff. And it's a little loose. So I'm like kind of precariously trying to tape this end pedal at the same time because it's kind of slippery. But it's a beautiful day to be out. It was pretty chilly and windy at home, but I get here and it's, you know, probably mid 60s, comfortable, a little bit of a breeze, a lot of people out on the trail. So just really, really pretty. So this is about 2 miles north of Newville. And you see there's a sign that says temporary end of Cumberland Valley Rail Trail, exit ramp to Green Hill Road. And it's literally just like, looks like somebody's backyard that you're just kind of going through. So this is why I had planned to turn around, and like I said, I'm going to go past the car all the way to Shippensburg and then turn around and head back. Cute little covered bridge. Also passed probably 3 or 4 Amish families already out on the trail, but I guess that's to be expected in this part of PA. Really pretty landscape views like this. You kind of tunnel the green for a little bit and you pop out and you're looking out on the mountains with farms. Real pretty. Though the wind has definitely picked up and is definitely blowing right in my face. So there's these nice markers along the trail. So the highest number I saw on the northern end was number 12. So that makes sense. So again, from one end to the other and back, you're probably looking around 25 miles. And the surface is definitely improved down here on the southern stretch. And I think it's just because of more usage, just packed down, whereas the northern part past Newville, I don't think sees much use. So 4 miles to the end and then turning around and again probably about 10 miles back to the car. Lots of newly planted corn. This last 1 mile or so of trail as you head into Shippensburg basically kind of goes through the campus of Shippensburg University, and it is paved, and then there's like a lot of kind of like offshoot trails, and then there's a number of like campus parking lots. So you know, really parking is very sparse along the trail, other than the Newville one and then down here at kind of the south end in Shippensburg itself. But I can't really speak to how legal it is to park in some of these places. There's one parking lot, I'll see if I can stop on the way back, where there's like some nice picnic tables, which would definitely be a good alternative. So I'm at the southern trailhead and just kind of terminates. But a real nice parking lot. A lot of spots, covered picnic tables. Then up here you got some benches and a really nice clean bathroom. So nice facilities both here and at Newville. You got an air pump, water fountain. So I'm going to get a quick snack, then head back on north. Got the requisite train cars along the southern end here. Here's the other park I was talking about. about a mile north of the end in Gifford. So lots of parking, playgrounds, baseball fields, a mile wide. All right, made it back to the car. Overall, pretty solid ride on the Cumberland Valley Rail Trail. It took me about 2 hours and 15 minutes to do the 25.4 miles. I especially felt like I was flying at the end. You know, it definitely kind of trends slightly upward going to Shippensburg, and then you kind of coast down back to this northern end. You know, surface overall was pretty solid. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10, you know, out of my usual rankings. There was, you know, some road crossings, but most of those roads, other than the exception of one, were like backcountry, nobody's using kind of roads. And like you said, you'd be in kind of tunnel green, then you'd have some beautiful farm sceneries with the mountains off in the background, and that kind of alternated back and forth. So overall, you know, very solid trail. You know, not one of the greatest I've ever ridden, but you know, definitely made for like a nice 2-hour afternoon ride. So I'm gonna get in the car, head on over to Gifford Pinchot State Park, and hopefully get myself set up before it gets dark. Made it to Gifford Pinchot State Park campground, and as I came in, like the whole front side of the campground was basically empty and desolate, and then on the back side here, where it kind of adjoins to the lake, there's a decent amount of people, but all the spots here are pretty small and don't really afford much privacy. But I think I got one of the better spots, but it's definitely not conducive for like a big tent or a big group. Like for somebody like myself, where it's just me in a single tent, it works. So this is like a little common area, but it's really overgrown grass, so I'm gonna stay out of that. Shower house, which I just checked out, was kind of iffy, but I'm gonna take a shower here in a second. Let this car pass me. So like this is pretty typical in terms of the size of most of these spots. This is spot 315, and you see, I mean, there's like no room whatsoever. But come down here, and same thing with like these other interior ones. Like I guess if you have a very small tent, you could go back there and it would be okay. That's 314. 316 look pretty decent. Those people were setting up, so I didn't want to tape them. Here's 313. So not much room there. 317. So they're right up against their car. And then 318 looks pretty darn nice. It sits down below. You can't really see it overly well, but there's like a area down below there. And here I am, 319. So check this out. Pretty cool little area down here. So you kind of come down, and you got the fire pit, picnic table, my tent. There's a teeny bit more room back there, but frankly it has a lot of roots. And you got your own kind of private water access. So kind of funky. I wouldn't go in there, but so plan on getting a shower, firing up my cook pot, make some oodles and noodles, and then just kind of relax by the fire. So I'll probably check in one more time. All right, finished up boiling myself a pot of water. Got a fire going. I'm waiting on the ramen. So this is where I plan on putting myself for the rest of the night. 2 kids out there boating right in front of my camping spot. And I figure I'll edit and upload this video and then get to bed early because I got my biggest mileage day tomorrow. So see you then.